Hello. Today I'm going to be showing you a lesson that is developed for high school students, grades 9 through 12, and it is a lesson that teaches students about digital citizenship. In this case, it's titled Retouching Reality, which invites students to critically think about the different purposes and context of digital image editing, something that is very controversial right now, and lots of students will have had experience either viewing these types of digitally manipulated images or they themselves have participated in it, whether for good or bad reasons. So this digital citizenship lesson covers information literacy and creative credit copyright literacy, both of which fall under the digital citizenship element of digital literacy. So let's go ahead and begin. The learning objectives for this lesson are threefold. The first is that students will be able to consider both the creative benefits and ethical drawbacks of digital photo manipulation. They will be able to understand the importance of purpose and context in evaluating digitally edited images. And they will be able to think critically about how the internet allows users to both celebrate and regulate our copy, change, paste culture. So the beginning of the lesson will start with an introduction warm-up, which will also serve as the hook for the lesson. The teacher will ask the students to share out, have you ever been fooled by an image online that you thought was real but turned out to be fake? So just kind of have students raise their hands and share their answers with the class. They can talk about what the picture was, what they saw, whether it was a good or bad photo manipulation. This is just meant to be a fun way to get students thinking about digital photo manipulation. After you've had this discussion, invite students to think about the following three questions. Where do we draw the line between creativity and deception? How do the purpose and context of photo editing affect how we feel about it? And what role does the internet play in allowing us to share, inspire, and critique images that have been edited? Explain to them that all three of these questions will be talked about through the activities today. So once you finish your warm-up, there are three separate activities in this lesson before you have the wrap-up exit ticket. So the first one is called Photo Fun, and it actually begins with just explaining what photo editing programs are and that it is a fun and creative process in many ways. So teacher will ask students to explain whether they've ever used a digital editing software, if so what they edited, and just kind of, you're trying to get students to understand that this is a fun and can be a creative and process and an art form. To give them kind of an example, he will show them the webpage from the Pioneer Woman, who is a blogger, but she also has a show on the Food Network. So if you want to give more contextual background, it wouldn't hurt probably to show just a quick clip from her show. You can explain that she's an Oklahoma woman and she runs a blog about her passions. And she even hosts a photo editing contest on her website for readers. And in the most recent one, she invited people to submit digitally edited photos of her family dog, Charlie. There was no prize for winning, but you did get your photo shared on her website. So you will have students read through her edit this assignment, and then you will have them look at some of the submissions that people have given. Some of them are quite funny, some of them are more realistic looking, and then you'll have students comment on the different submissions by asking, what are some different editing techniques that you see? Which photos are meant to look artistic? Which ones are meant to look funny? Which photos look real and which don't? Why? So you'll kind of have students marinate over these different questions, and some students will have different answers from others, and that's completely fine. Finally, you will ask students, why do you think users would want to submit a photo to this contest, especially since there were no official prizes? You're basically trying to guide students to recognize at this point that people digitally edit photos a lot of times as a hobby or professionally because it is a form of art, just like painting a picture or drawing a picture or any other type of filmmaking. It's the same type of artwork. And so it'll be fun to see everyone's different take on the same photo, which is a quote from the Pioneer Woman. So then after that, we move into the second part of the lesson, which is where retouching gets touchy. And in this situation, you are now moving on from digital editing to photo manipulation. And in this case, you'll give the example of like retouching someone's eyes in a photo to make them look brighter or bigger. You can also retouch things like a room by adding a door or editing out the cracks in the wall. And here you're kind of trying to explain to students that when you're looking at digital photo manipulation versus photo editing, you're really looking for the context of the photo, and that context can a lot of times be what causes the controversy over the photo. Even though photo retouching is a form of creative self-expression, depending on the context, photo retouching can be viewed as deceptive or unethical, and it might mislead people. So then you will arrange students in groups of 3 or 4, and you will begin the second activity, in which you'll hand out a worksheet for the students. And on the worksheet, they'll have a set of questions, which are these 3 questions right here. And they will also, and to answer these questions, they will be looking at a news article and an advertisement. And so students will read those, and they will answer the questions here. And after they've had time to look at it, definitely have a conversation with the students what they put for these 3 answers, why they put that, because again, students will have different answers for these because students view photo manipulation differently depending on who they are. So again, once you finish that, you will remind students that you have discussed 2 different contexts for photo manipulation, both the fun, creative side and the unethical, deceptive side, especially when it's used in journalism. So finally, we will move on to the third section, which is from the audience's perspective. So now we've kind of considered why a company, an advertising agency might choose to use photo manipulation, and now we're going to look at what happens when an audience or the general public views it. So again, you're going to direct students to look at those same 2 photos, the article and the advertisement, and you'll have them answer these 3 questions here. And these, I'll ask them to kind of put themselves in the shoes of the general public, as someone that's looking at this for the first time and how they're feeling about it, how it makes them feel. And so then they will have to discuss both with themselves, and you can take the time to discuss as a class, because this is the side of the page that we all find ourselves. We are the ones that are looking at advertisements every day, and the ones that are kind of being influenced by these photos that we're seeing. And so finally, once we've done that, you will wrap up with an exit ticket that asks 3 questions. It's important that you have your students write these questions down and answer them in a journal format, simply so that you can go back and assess student understanding, but also so that it really gives students the opportunity to reflect and digest a lot of what they've learned today. Because this lesson only takes 60 minutes, and so you're giving them a lot of information really quickly, and it's important to give students that time to think about what they learned and talk about it. So students will answer the 3 questions. Where do we draw the line between creativity and deception? How do the purpose and context of photo editing affect how we feel about it? And what role does the internet play in allowing us to share, inspire, and critique images that have been edited? So of course, these might sound familiar because they're just question representations of the 3 learning objectives that came from this lesson, but that's important because they all work to answer the essential question of the lesson. So that was the lesson on retouching reality. It asks students to think critically about the different purposes and contexts of digital image editing. We looked at the fun side, we looked at the bad side, we looked at the audience perspective, and we really got a sense of how students feel about digital manipulation, photo editing. There is also a final assessment that teachers can download from this website, Common Sense Media, if they choose to further assess their students in their understanding of this lesson. I hope that you found this informative, and thanks so much for watching.